So good afternoon, everybody. I'm absolutely delighted to have been invited here by Meta Conferences to talk to you about e-commerce. Two reasons. One is I love Tel Aviv. It's one of my favorite cities in the world, so an opportunity to come here to talk about e-commerce combines two of my great passions, so thank you very much to Meta Conferences. I don't have much time, I only have 20 minutes, and so what I'm going to do is whiz through a presentation that hopefully allows you to share some of the insight from my career, which I've been very fortunate to have over the last 22 years. So I'll start with a quick introduction. I'll move on to talk about some of the work that we're doing at Marks & Spencer, and then I will bring it together by talking about my experiences in Silicon Valley and how they've helped to inform some of the work that we're doing right now. And then I'll save some time at the end for Q&A. Now, what was very interesting for me when I arrived at Ben Gurion International is that the immigration officer said to me, "Why are you here?" And I said, "Well, I'm here to talk about e-commerce." And he said, "Well, that's strange because you look more like a singer or a dancer to me. Are you sure that you're going to the right event?" And I said to him, "Yes, I am." And interestingly, I'm actually someone that's been in e-commerce longer than some of the attendees at this conference. I did my first e-commerce project back in 1994 when I joined IBM, and I know some of you probably were not born then, which is slightly embarrassing for me. What was interesting about my time at IBM is that it taught me about what I describe as heavy lifting technology. So at IBM I learned about some very, very substantial technologies. How do you actually integrate banking systems with the web? How do you actually build logistics systems that allow a major courier to move parcels around the world? And I spent 6 years there and had a wonderful time learning about how to help big companies really drive some value from what then was known as the information superhighway. After 6 years at IBM, somebody said to me, "Hey, a guy like you needs to be doing something much more exciting than working for a big technology company." And I moved into a company called Agency.com, which at the time was one of the biggest web consultancies in the world. And we were helping companies like Gucci and Heineken and other consumer-facing brands to actually work out, well, what is the potential for e-commerce? What are you going to do to actually drive value and business for your customers? So that was very different. If IBM taught me about hard technology and heavy lifting technology, at Agency.com I got to learn about customer experience and how you have to combine the two things very well to really drive value. A short time after that, I ended up working for an organization called Comic Relief. And some of you will know that Comic Relief is a major charity in the UK. And so you're probably wondering now, what did he learn at Comic Relief? What I learned at Comic Relief is that sometimes you have to do things with not many resources. As a charity, they didn't have a huge amount of money, nor did they have access to lots of technical skills. And so I had to really think about how I could take some of the innovation from my earlier career and apply that in a very different environment. And so that, for me, was a very valuable experience. And then I moved into Apple. I think some of you have probably heard of Apple. It's a technology company that makes consumer electronics. I spent a wonderful 4.5 years at Apple, first building the European engineering function for e-commerce in London, before I was asked to move to the States, and I led globally on our e-commerce and digital engineering delivery. And at Apple, I learned about the importance of absolute excellence and doing things at scale. Unfortunately, I can't share the figures with you, but you can just imagine how many people go to the Apple website to buy an iPhone when it is launched. It is a large number of people. And so how you can build a great customer experience and at the same time handle that scale was something very, very challenging, but something also very exciting. Today, I work for Marks & Spencer, and I'm very proud to work for Marks & Spencer, a fantastic retailer with 132 years of history, founded by Michael Marks. And something that really, really stands out for me is the focus on customers that we have. And so let me go on to talk a little bit about Marks & Spencer and what we're doing there. Marks & Spencer is a big company. We have 1,382 stores around the world. And in those stores, we have 80,041 colleagues and employees helping our customers to get fantastic service and access to our fantastic products. Those customers love us, and we served 32 million customers last year, and those 32 million customers generated just over $13 billion of revenue for us. So we're a big and successful company. But I was asked to join Marks & Spencer to help drive a digital transformation. And we talked earlier in this conference about omnichannel, and that's one of the things that's been a really big focus for me. As the director of our digital business, obviously I'm very proud to run this business, but also I'm very focused on the fact that the world is going through a transformation. And how do we take a brand like Marks & Spencer and continue to ensure that it is relevant to an increasingly digital and increasingly digitally savvy audience? So that's one of my challenges. Our online business that we refer to as M&S.com is also very successful. Last year we served 7.4 million customers online, and those 7.4 million customers visited our online store 7.8 million times a week. So that's quite a few customers to look after. And actually, in terms of growth, we grew last year 23.4%. So that's pretty exciting for us. It is an exciting space to be in, but challenging. Because how do you take the fantastic in-store experience that you have and make that relevant online? That is something that we're very focused on and something that we're continuing to get to grips with. So where do you get the inspiration to build an incredible omni-channel business? And it won't surprise you to hear that we get the inspiration from our customers. So we use big data to a great extent. We launched last year something called Sparks. And Sparks is a loyalty program for our top Marks & Spencer customers. And that loyalty program we launched in November of last year, and we already have 4.4 million customers. And those 4.4 million customers get personalized offers. They don't get generic offers that get offered to everybody. We take information about their purchases, what they like, whether or not they're a vegetarian, and we actually use that information, that data, to provide them with personalized offers. And that for us has been an incredible driver of incremental engagement, but also incremental business. We see 1.5 million of our customers interacting with Sparks on a weekly basis. They love the offering, and it's all about taking the data that we have about them and using it to give to them things that are important to them specifically, rather than generic offers. We also have a very important charity component. As a company, we're committed to sustainability. We're committed to being a good corporate citizen. And so the Sparks program has also generated over £1 million of charitable activity as a result of the activity of our customers. So we're very excited about that. And we think that Sparks is the future. And we think that big data and personalization on top of a really strong e-commerce business is very important to driving growth in this space. But there's another source of inspiration for us. We don't get inspired only by our customers. We also get inspired by the things that are happening elsewhere around the world. So some people ask me, well, what is it that you actually have that has allowed you to build this business? And we've seen lots of technical diagrams today, so I'm going to move through this one pretty quickly. But at the foundation of all of our e-commerce is a set of core systems that can really drive growth and can really drive incremental business for us. And those core systems at the bottom of this diagram are things like SAP, and they are things like the financial systems that drive our business. But that's not enough. And so on top of our core systems, we, a few years ago, embarked upon a program called the Multi-Channel Foundation Program. And that allowed us to build what we call MCFP. It is an omni-channel platform that provides a seamless experience for our customers in-store and online. It allows our colleagues to get access to information about our products and services. It allows our colleagues to provide services to our customers through our call centers. And it allows our customers to buy online. And that was a very significant investment for us. But we were very serious about e-commerce. We decided that we wanted to make that significant multi-million pound investment in order to enable our business. Once you've got that, though, you also need to think about how you make those capabilities available to drive innovation. You can't just build a system and expect it to drive your business. And so on top of the multi-channel foundation platform, we have built a services layer that allows us to take all of those capabilities and to make those available to our engineers. And in our digital team, we have several hundred engineers who are focused on innovation and focused on customer experience. And that's really important to us because without those services and the APIs that they built on top, we wouldn't be able to actually build those compelling experiences. And so that's just a quick snapshot of how we've done it. We have focused on our customer. We've made sure that we have a platform that supports the capabilities of our engineers, but we have taken inspiration from one other place, and that's Silicon Valley. So lots of you have asked me about my time in Silicon Valley and asked me about my life at Apple. It won't surprise you to hear that I'm not allowed to tell you too much about life at Apple, but I will touch upon some of the elements as we go through this next section. Now, Silicon Valley is a pretty tough place. I mean, yes, you have 300 days a year of sunshine. Yes, you have fantastic environments. You're close to the Pacific Ocean. But it is a pretty brutal environment to work in. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but in Silicon Valley, there is a no-notice rule. In your contract, it says you are employed at will. You may be asked to leave at any time, and you can leave at any time. And that is the way in which people work in Silicon Valley. It is an incredibly tough environment. But I think that has helped to drive the culture that has created incredible innovation in the Silicon Valley region. And what are the things that have come out of that culture? I think the first is this focus on agility. No one in Silicon Valley, no one that I met anyway, is worried about project plans or program plans. What they're worried about is delivering value as quickly as possible. And everybody in Silicon Valley is very focused on agile. They want to deliver value as quickly as possible to their customers. They want to iterate, and they want to win. They are incredibly competitive. It's the space where you'll hear people talking about destroying the competition and absolutely winning customers. And that focus is what drives them to be very agile. And so for me, that's one of the key defining characteristics of life in Silicon Valley. Next is the idea of mobile first. So when I came back to Europe, it was interesting to me that so many people talked about websites and so many people talked about the web, because in Silicon Valley, actually everything is app-driven or mobile first. And certainly, it's one of the things that I've introduced at Marks & Spencer. We are very focused now on doing everything mobile first. I don't want to see a new experience that's been designed on a beautiful 27-inch Thunderbolt display, because that is not how our customers are going to interact with us. So mobile first is really important. But this is, I think, really defining of the spirit in Silicon Valley. It is do it, try it, and fix it. So look, I was brought up in the UK with a very traditional upbringing. I went to Cambridge University, and you're used to doing things in a very precise way, and you polish it perfectly, and then you launch it. And in Silicon Valley, I had to learn that that's not the way things get done. You have your idea, you execute fast, you do the minimum that you can to get into the marketplace, and if it doesn't work, you fix it. And I see that time and time again, big companies and small companies. I was at Facebook a few weeks ago, and it was fascinating just how happily and how readily they accept this idea that you can deploy something, and if it doesn't work, you just roll it back. And that's really difficult for big companies, because we're so concerned often about negative PR or the impact on our customers, but actually customers love it. You have to be able to build things quickly, to try them, and to fix them. But Silicon Valley also focuses on this last point, which is when things go wrong, you put your hands up and you say, it didn't work, let's stop, and let's do something else. Now this will really surprise you. In Silicon Valley, there is actually a conference called FailCon. It is a conference where people who have done things that have failed go and present on those failures in order to help drive understanding in the marketplace. And I spent some time working in Germany, and I was thinking, in Germany, would they have a conference called FailCon? Probably not, because everybody would be terrified that they would be presenting their failures. But this is why Silicon Valley is driving so much innovation, and I think there's a lot to learn from Silicon Valley, and a lot that, certainly in my career, I have benefited from in that culture, and that we're now applying to what we do at Marks & Spencer. And I think it's helping us to understand what the future looks like in a way that perhaps we wouldn't have been able to get to grips with before. So what do we see in the future? What sort of things are happening? Smartphones clearly have been a really important feature of the last 10 years. I mean, what's interesting about the use of smartphones today, and there's lots of research that Apple and Google have got about this, is that we typically touch our phones about 2,617 times a day. Some of you seem to be touching your phones more than that right now. Now, is that good or bad? We don't have enough time to talk about that. We don't have enough time to pass judgment. But I can tell you that psychologists have observed that for many people, the smartphone is the last thing they touch when they go to bed at night, especially if they're single. and often the first thing they touch in the morning. And so those behaviors are changing quite a lot. But most of you will be quite comfortable with that. That's not something new. But here's what's really interesting. 10 years ago, we didn't have the iPhone, and even people like Steve Ballmer, who at the time was the number 2 at Microsoft, he said it was never going to take off. This is a quote from Steve Ballmer in September 2007. There's no chance that the iPhone is going to get any market share. No chance. So that is an expert, arguably one of the world's top technology experts, in 2007 talking about the iPhone. So it'd be pretty stupid of me to put my hand up today and to try and predict what the future looks like, because in 10 years' time, the truth is we just don't know. It will be very, very hard to say. But there are some things that are quite obvious to us. One is that we're very comfortable with technology now. Technology is all around us. We have laptops that we take to bed, as in the case of this particular lady here. We have the opportunity now to access smartphones and all sorts of technology everywhere we go. And fascinatingly enough, in Japan, there's some research that suggests even cats are starting to get excited about technology, and perhaps this cat in the picture is looking at what's on this screen and trying to help its owner decide what to do. So we know that we're really comfortable with technology. It's become a seamless part of our lives. But predicting the future is impossible. We just can't do it. But it's part of my job, unfortunately, to try and do that. And so I do always scan the marketplace and look for inspiration and look for an opportunity to see what's coming down the line. At Marks & Spencer, there are 4 things that we're really excited about. I'm not suggesting that we're going to do these things. I'm not suggesting that these are the answer. But there are 4 things that really get us quite excited right now. The first is 3D printing. And why 3D printing? Because in November of last year, I was at a research offsite, and I saw a company that believes the future of clothing is 3D printed clothing. And I didn't kind of believe that at the time, but they demonstrated their product, and it works. So who knows what the future holds, but it's possible that in a few years' time, we may actually be 3D printing our clothes in addition to buying them in store. Now, there are questions there around the customer experience and how wonderful that is, but it's not impossible. There's even a startup that is doing 3D printed food right now. Now, do you want to 3D print your food? Maybe not, but in some places you may want to do that, and so these are the sorts of things that we have to consider and we have to look at. Next is the idea of drones and automated fulfillment. And this sounds very far-fetched, but any of you who watch what goes on in the UK, which is, of course, the world's top e-commerce marketplace by penetration, you'll know that the UK government has just given, I'll call them the Big A, has just given the Big A permission to actually use drones for delivery. So they are trialing drones for delivery now with a view to deliver to customers within 30 minutes. I mean, that's pretty remarkable, but that is something that is absolutely going to happen. We aren't necessarily right now interested in drones, but we are looking at things such as automated lockers, where maybe you could go into a store and collect something from an automated locker and have a much better, quicker experience. But this is an area that excites us and where there are lots of things happening. Next is the Internet of Things, and I could talk for hours about this, but as we're running out of time, I'll just make it very brief. But there are a couple of things that are really standing out now. One is this idea that if you had a washing machine, instead of having to work out which program you needed to select, as you put your clothes in the washing machine, it can be getting information about those clothes and automatically programming itself to the right settings so that it knows how to wash your clothes. And Samsung recently announced in their latest fridge product the ability to, as you're in the supermarket, you can actually hit a button on your phone and you can look at what's inside your fridge. So how many times have you been to the shop and thought, do I have any milk, do I have any cheese? Well, thanks to Samsung, you can actually now look on your phone when you're in the store. So they're just 2 very quick examples of the sorts of things that are happening. And I think that this is a really big space. We are very, very excited by this space. We're working with a company called Everything that is also looking at the potential for clothes to have smart capabilities. So that instead of just being a suit, this suit would know that it's Marcus's suit. It would know what size it is. It would know where I wear it. It would understand how to become a more useful part of my life. And once again, that's a huge topic in itself that we don't have time to talk about now. But I think the most important thing in the future the most important is personalization. Now, we've talked about personalization for a long time, and I don't think that anybody has really cracked it yet. For me, personalization is about providing our customers with a completely curated, a completely unique experience that takes our catalog, and we launch roughly 1,700 new lines a year, a very vast catalog we have. We take that catalog and we provide a personalized, targeted view of that to our customers so they can get the best possible experience of working with us. So that's exciting, and I talked about the Sparks program earlier. We'll build on the Sparks program to make sure that we are personalizing to our customers in a way that works for them. And once again, a big topic that I could talk about for a long time. But as I'm now out of time, let me focus on a pretty controversial picture, I think, of what the future of e-commerce really is. Now, some of you won't like this, but you'll just have to bear with me because I think this is the future of e-commerce. I think that e-commerce is not about replacing the interactions between people, because I think that the best customer experiences are those where people are interacting. I think that we look at technology and we look at e-commerce as a way of enabling better customer service, better customer actions, better customer insight. In this picture, one of our customers is collecting a product that she bought online. 75% of our online orders end up with somebody going into a store to actually pick up the product. That says to me that our customers do want to have that physical interaction. They do want to work directly with our colleagues. And so the technology is there to enable our colleagues, to empower them, to give them access to customer information, to give them access to catalogs, to help them do a better job. And so for me, that is what I think the future of e-commerce looks like. I hope that's been interesting for you. Thank you very much for your time.